They were just men. That was the first thing you noticed. Not monsters with horns, not figures from a nightmare. Just men in suits, some fidgeting, some staring straight ahead, some with a kind of bored arrogance. Goering, of course, was the most theatrical. He'd puff himself up, try to dominate the room even from the dock. Hess was the ghost, often lost in his own world. Ribbentrop, perpetually sour. It was hard to reconcile the scale of the atrocities with these ordinary faces. The documents were endless. Piles of paper meticulously kept records of death and destruction. Orders signed, meetings minuted, budgets for extermination. It wasn't just hearsay, it was all there, in black and white, often with their own signatures. Then the films. The films were different. They brought the abstract numbers into horrifying focus. Piles of bodies, skeletal survivors, the camps. The silence in the courtroom during those screenings was absolute. You could feel the collective gasp, the shared horror. It wasn't just evidence, it was a wound open for all to see. The translation booths were a constant hum. For languages, simultaneous. English, French, Russian, German. The sheer logistics of it were staggering. Every word spoken, every document presented, had to be understood by everyone. It was slow, painstaking work. Sometimes I wondered if the weight of it all would crush the process. But it kept going. The judges, patient, stern. The prosecutors, relentless in their presentation of facts. The defense, trying to find cracks in an edifice of undeniable truth. They all had their defenses. Following orders. Not aware of the full extent. It was war. I was just a soldier, administrator, politician. But the prosecution systematically dismantled those claims. They showed that these men weren't just cogs, they were architects, enforcers, ideologues. They had agency. They made choices. The concept of crimes against humanity was new, being forged right there, in that courtroom. It felt like the world was trying to define evil, not just punish it. I remember one day, a witness, a survivor, spoke. Her voice was quiet, but her words cut through everything. She described things no human should ever have to describe. Goering just watched her, impassive. Stryker, the propagandist, sometimes laughed. It was chilling. There was no remorse, no flicker of recognition of the suffering they had caused, not from most of them. That was the true face of it, I think. Not the grand evil, but the cold indifference. The weeks turned into months. The rhythm of the trials became a part of life. The walk to the Palace of Justice, the security checks, the quiet tension in the air. We were all part of something monumental. It wasn't just about punishing these specific men, it was about setting a precedent. It was about saying, definitively, that there are lines, even in war, that cannot be crossed. That individuals are accountable. When the verdicts came, the room was still. Each name called, each judgment delivered. Guilty. Not guilty. Sentenced to death. Imprisonment. There was no cheering, no celebration. Just a profound sense of gravity. It felt like the closing of a terrible chapter, but also the opening of a new one. A chapter where justice, however imperfect, would try to hold power accountable. I left Nuremberg with a different understanding. Evil wasn't a monstrous entity, it was the choices made by ordinary men, amplified by power and ideology. It was the systematic dehumanization, the bureaucratic efficiency of destruction, the silence of bystanders. The trials didn't erase the past, but they confronted it. They put a name to the crimes and a face to the perpetrators. They established that there is a universal standard of right and wrong, and that no one is above it. That was the argument closed. The world had spoken. It had drawn a line. And I had been there to see it.